Have you ever wondered about the shadowy figures that linger in the margins of the Bible's earliest pages? The Nephilim, those mysterious beings born from the union of the divine and the human, stand as one of Scripture's greatest enigmas. Were they giants who strode across the earth, towering over mortals with strength unmatched? Or were they something more, a symbol of rebellion, a whisper of forbidden alliances between heaven and earth? Their story, tucked into the opening chapters of Genesis, is a tale that has sparked wonder, debate, and even fear for centuries. Tonight, as you settle in, let the ancient world unfold before you. Picture a time when the earth was young, when the line between the divine and the mortal blurred, and when beings of immense power walked among men. Their story is about to surprise you, and it begins in a world both familiar and strange, a world where angels gaze upon humanity with longing, and the consequences of their choices reshape creation itself. Imagine the dawn of history, a time when the earth was a tapestry of untamed beauty. Rolling hills stretched beneath the sky, so clear it seemed to hum with the voice of God. Rivers carved their paths through fertile valleys, their waters glinting like molten silver under the sun. Humanity, in its infancy, was learning to tame the land, building homes of mud and stone, gathering around fires to share stories of their Creator. But this was no paradise untouched by shadow. The book of Genesis, in its 6th chapter, speaks of a moment when the divine order trembled. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, it tells us, and they took wives to themselves whomever they chose. These words, simple yet heavy with meaning, set the stage for a drama that would echo through the ages. Who were these sons of God? Were they angels fallen from their celestial posts, drawn by the allure of human flesh? Or were they kings, priests, or men claiming divine authority, seizing power through forbidden unions? The answers are not clear, but the result is undeniable. From these unions came the Nephilim, beings of legend described as heroes of old, men of renown. To understand the Nephilim, we must step back into the world of Genesis, a world where the veil between heaven and earth was thin. Picture a bustling marketplace in an ancient city, perhaps one nestled along the banks of the Euphrates. Merchants called out, their voices mingling with the clatter of carts and the laughter of children. The air carried the scent of freshly baked bread, mixed with the tang of spices traded from distant lands. Women, adorned with simple woven garments, moved through the crowds, their faces lit with the quiet strength of those who nurtured life in a rugged world. It was here, in this vibrant chaos, that the sons of God first cast their eyes upon the daughters of men. The Bible does not linger on their motives, but the Book of Enoch, an ancient text cherished by early Christians and Jews, paint a vivid picture. It speaks of angels, called the Watchers, who descended from their heavenly stations, their hearts stirred by the beauty and vitality of humanity. These were not mere mortals, but beings of light and power, tasked with guarding creation. Yet they chose to step into it, to touch it, to claim it. The Nephilim, their offspring, were no ordinary children. The Scriptures call them giants, mighty in stature and deed. Imagine them striding across the plains, their shadows stretching long in the evening light, their presence commanding awe and fear. Were they truly giants in the physical sense, towering over humanity like the cedars of Lebanon? Or was their greatness in their influence, their ability to shape the world through strength and ambition? Scholars have debated this for centuries. Some point to the Hebrew word Nephilim, which may mean fallen ones, suggesting connection to their divine origins or their moral decay. Others see them as symbols of a world slipping into chaos, a world where the boundaries set by God were crumbling under the weight of desire. The Book of Enoch describes them as beings of immense power, whose actions tip the balance of creation. Their story is not just one of size or strength, but a collision between the divine and the human, a collision that would bring both wonder and ruin. As we journey through this tale, we'll explore the many facets of the Nephilim story, from forbidden knowledge they brought to humanity, to the violence that stained the earth in their wake, to the divine judgment that sought to wash it all away. We'll wander through ancient texts, from the Bible to the myths of distant cultures, finding echoes of these giants in every corner of the world. Were they heroes, villains, or something between? The answers lie in the shadows of history, waiting for us to uncover them. But before we dive deeper, let me invite you to join us on this journey. Subscribe to the Sacred Chronicle and I'll ask God to bring all the good things into your life. Together, let's step into the ancient world, where the Nephilim's footsteps still echo, and discover the truth behind their legend. The story of the Nephilim is not just a tale of giants. It's a window into a time when heaven and earth met in ways that defied the natural order. As we move forward, we'll explore the origins of these beings, the choices that led to their creation, and the consequences that shook the foundations of the world. Picture yourself standing at the edge of an ancient valley, the wind carrying whispers of a time long past. The Nephilim are waiting, their story ready to unfold. Let's begin. As the first rays of sunlight pierce the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, the world of Genesis stirred with a quiet energy. This was a time long before the great cities rose, before empires carved their names into stone. The earth was a vast, untamed garden where humanity wandered in small clans, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of nature. Rivers flowed like veins of life, nourishing fields of wild grains and groves of ancient trees, whose branches whispered secrets to the wind. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and damp earth after a gentle rain. In this primordial landscape, men and women lived simply, their days marked by the hunt, the harvest, and the flickering light of evening fires where stories of creation were passed down. But beneath the serene surface, a subtle shift was occurring, a blurring of boundaries that would forever alter the course of history. It was here, in the dawn of human civilization, that the Nephilim first emerged, born from unions that defied the divine order. The book of Genesis, in its 6th chapter, offers a glimpse into this enigmatic era, when human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. These words, etched in ancient scrolls, evoke a sense of wonder and unease. Who were these sons of God? The phrase itself is shrouded in mystery, interpreted differently across centuries of theological thought. Some scholars, drawing from the rich tapestry of Jewish tradition, see them as angels, celestial beings who, in their eternal watch over creation, became entranced by the mortal realm. Imagine these angels, radiant and ethereal, gazing down from the heavens, their eyes captivated by the grace and vitality of human women, the daughters of men, with their flowing hair and laughter echoing through valleys, represented something the angels lacked, the raw, passionate essence of earthly life. In a moment of rebellion, these sons of God descended, shedding their divine detachment to embrace the forbidden. Others propose a more earthly explanation, suggesting the sons of God were not angels but powerful rulers or descendants of Seth, the righteous line from Adam. In this view, they were kings or nobles who claimed divine authority, using their status to take wives from the common people, perhaps the line of Cain. This interpretation paints a picture of social upheaval, where the mighty impose their will, leading to a society fractured by inequality and ambition. Picture a royal procession winding through a dusty plain, banners fluttering in the breeze. As a king spotted a woman of humble birth, her eyes sparkling with the fire of independence. He claims her not out of love, but out of entitlement, blurring the lines between the sacred and the profane. Regardless of the interpretation, the outcome was the same. From these unions sprang the Nephilim, described as the heroes of old, warriors of renown. The Hebrew term Nephilim carries connotations of falling or giants, hinting at both their origins and their stature. Were they literal giants, their heads brushing the clouds, their footsteps shaking the ground like thunder? Or were they giants in influence, leaders whose deeds became legends whispered around campfires? To envision the Nephilim, let your mind wander to a scene of ancient grandeur. A towering figure stands atop a hill, his silhouette stark against the setting sun. His frame is colossal, muscles honed from battles unseen, his eyes holding the wisdom of ages. Around him, lesser men gather, drawn by his charisma and strength. The Nephilim were not mere mortals. They embodied a hybrid vigor, blending divine essence with human frailty. The Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text that expands on Genesis, names some of these angels, Azazel, Shemahaza, and others who led the descent. According to Enoch, 200 watchers, angels assigned to observe humanity, conspired on Mount Hermon, swearing an oath to take human wives. The mountain itself, snow-capped and majestic, looms in imagination, its peaks piercing the sky like a gateway between worlds. There, amid swirling mists and the howl of winds, they sealed their fate, descending to the plains below where women awaited, unaware of the cosmic forces at play. The children born of these unions were extraordinary. Genesis notes that they were mighty, their renown spreading like wildfire across the land. Imagine the Nephilim child growing unnaturally fast, outpacing his peers in height and prowess. By adolescence, he might wield a spear with the force of storm, hunt beasts that terrified villages, or command respect in councils where elders bowed. But this power came at a cost. The text implies a world tilting toward corruption, where the Nephilim's presence accelerated humanity's slide into wickedness. The earth, once harmonious, began to echo with the clash of weapons and cries of the oppressed. Fields that once yielded bountiful harvests now bore witness to raids and conquests as these giants asserted dominance. Theological debates rage on. If the sons of God were angels, does this mean demons or fallen spirits mingle with humans, creating a race tainted by sin? The early church fathers, like Justin Martyr and Tertullian, leaned toward the angelic view, seeing the Nephilim as evidence of spiritual warfare spilling into the physical realm. Yet, not all interpretations cast the Nephilim in a villainous light. Some see them as tragic figures, caught between two worlds, their divine heritage a burden as much as a gift. Picture a Nephilim warrior, alone under a starlit sky, pondering his dual nature, the pull of heaven's purity against earth's temptations. His mother, a human woman, might have told him tales of his father's celestial home, filling him with longing for a place he could never reach. His father, perhaps regretful, vanished back to the shadows, leaving behind a legacy of confusion. In Jewish mysticism, texts like the Zohar explore these themes, suggesting the sons of God were divine sparks descended to elevate humanity, only to be corrupted by material desires. The narrative flows like a river, carrying us through layers of meaning, each interpretation adding depth to the story. As the population grew, so did the influence of these beings. Villages expanded into settlements, where the Nephilim often rose to leadership, their feats becoming the stuff of oral traditions. One might imagine epic battles where a single Nephilim turned the tide, his sword gleaming as he felled armies. Or perhaps they were innovators, using their inherited knowledge to forge tools that advanced civilization. Yet at what price? The Bible hints at a multiplication of wickedness, with every inclination of the human heart turning toward evil. The Mediterranean breeze, once carrying the promise of new beginnings, now whispered warnings of impending doom. God, observing from on high, grieved at the sight, his creation marred by these forbidden blends. The dawn of the Nephilim marked a pivotal chapter in biblical history, a time when the divine touched the human in ways that sparked both awe and catastrophe. Their story invites us to reflect on boundaries, those invisible lines that separate the sacred from the secular, the eternal from the ephemeral. As we linger in this ancient world, the giant shadows lengthen, hinting at the chaos to come. High above the earth, where the stars burned like lanterns in an endless night, the Watchers stood sentinel. These were angels, beings of radiant light, crafted by the hand of God to oversee his creation. Their eyes, sharp as the edge of dawn, traced the movements of humanity below. A young race, vibrant and flawed, carving their existence from the wild beauty of the world. The Watcher's duty was clear: to observe, to guard, to maintain the sacred order that separated heaven from earth. But as the centuries unfolded, something stirred within them. The daughters of men, with their laughter echoing through verdant valleys and their faces glowing in the firelight, became more than mere subjects of observation. They were a temptation, a call to cross the forbidden line. And so, on the snow-draped slopes of Mount Hermon, under a sky heavy with portent, the Watchers made a choice that would ripple through the ages. Picture the scene, a mountain rising like a titan, its peaks piercing the clouds, a place where the divine seemed to touch the mortal. The air was sharp, carrying the scent of pine and frost, as 200 angels gathered in secret. The Book of Enoch, an ancient text that breathes life into the sparse word of Genesis, names their leaders, Shemahazah, Azazel, and others whose names echo like thunder in forgotten tongues. These were not mere messengers, but beings of immense power, their forms shimmering with celestial fire. Yet, as they stood on that sacred peak, Their hearts were heavy with desire. They looked upon the women of the earth, whose beauty was not just in their form, but in their fleeting, fragile lives, so unlike the eternal existence of the angels. "Let us take wives," they said, binding themselves with an oath, their voices blending with the howl of the wind. It was a pact of rebellion, a defiance of the divine order they were sworn to uphold. The descent was swift, like stars falling from the heavens. Imagine the earth trembling faintly as their feet touched the soil, their radiance dimming to blend with the mortal world. They walked among humanity, cloaked in forms that mirrored men yet betrayed their otherworldly nature in their piercing gazes and unnatural grace. The daughters of men, tending their fields or weaving by the riverside, must have paused, their breath catching as these strangers approached. The watchers did not come as conquerors, but as suitors, offering promises of love and knowledge that no mortal could refuse. Villages buzzed with whispers of these newcomers, men who seemed to carry the weight of eternity in their steps. A woman, perhaps drawing water from a well, might have met the eyes of a watcher, her heart racing as he spoke her name with a voice that seemed to echo from the stars. In those moments, the boundaries of creation blurred, and the unions that followed gave rise to Nephilim. But the watchers brought more than their affections. They carried secrets, knowledge forbidden to humanity, locked away in the divine vaults of heaven. According to Enoch, they taught the arts of metallurgy, forging swords and shields that gleamed with an unnatural sheen. Picture a village blacksmith, his hands calloused from years of the forge, watching in awe as a watcher shaped molten metal into blades that could cleave stone. They taught the crafting of ornaments, the painting of faces with cosmetics, turning beauty into a weapon of allure. Imagine women gathering around a watcher, their eyes wide as he showed them how to grind minerals into powders that enhanced their features, transforming them in ways that stirred envy and desire. They revealed the mysteries of the stars, teaching astrology that mapped destinies in heavens, and the secrets of herbs and enchantments that bent the natural world to human will. These gifts were dazzling, sparking advancements that lifted humanity from its primitive roots, but they came at a terrible cost. The knowledge was forbidden for a reason. It was not meant for a race still learning to walk in righteousness. The swords forged under angelic guidance did not remain tools for protection. They became instruments of conquest, staining the earth with blood. The cosmetics and adornments fueled vanity, sowing discord among tribes. The celestial wisdom, once a divine prerogative, twisted into sorcery, leading men and women to worship powers other than God. Picture a once peaceful valley now alive with the clang of metal and the shouts of warriors, as tribes armed with newfound skills waged war for dominance. The Watchers, perhaps at first reveling in their role as teachers, watched as their gifts spiraled into chaos. Their love for humanity, once pure in its intensity, became a catalyst for corruption, unraveling the harmony of creation. The Nephilim, born of these unions, inherited their father's divine spark. They were not just children, but prodigies, their strength and intellect surpassing all who came before. Imagine a Nephilim youth, barely a decade old, lifting boulders that 10 men could not budge, his eyes glowing with a wisdom that belied his age. Villagers revered them, feared them, and often bowed to their will. Yet, the Watchers' influence extended beyond their offspring. The knowledge they shared spread like wildfire, igniting ambition and pride across the earth. The Book of Enoch describes a world where great iniquity was multiplied, where the earth groaned under the weight of sin. The Watchers, once guardians, became agents of upheaval, their descent marking a turning point in the biblical narrative. Some traditions suggest they knew the consequences of their actions, that their oath on Mount Hermon was a deliberate act of defiance, a rejection of the celestial duties for the fleeting pleasures of earth. As night fell, the Watchers' legacy took root in the hearts of men. Campfires flickered across the plains, casting shadows that danced like specters of the angels' fall. Mothers told their children tales of these divine visitors, their voices hushed with awe and fear. The Nephilim grew in number and power, their presence a constant reminder of the Watchers' choice. But above, in the heavens, God's eyes did not turn away. The Creator, who had shaped the stars and breathed life into dust, saw the growing stain upon his creation. The descent of the Watchers was not just a rebellion of angels, but a challenge to the divine order, setting the stage for a reckoning that would shake the foundations of the world. The earth trembled beneath their footsteps, a rhythm that echoed through valleys and across windswept plains. The Nephilim, born of the forbidden union between the Watchers and human women, were no mere mortals. They were giants, not just in stature, but in presence, their shadows stretching long over a world that both revered and feared them. In the twilight of humanity's early days, when villages huddled around flickering fires and the stars seemed to whisper secrets of forgotten order, these beings rose to power. Their names, though lost to time, were once spoken with awe, their deeds woven into the fabric of oral traditions. Picture a towering figure standing atop a rocky outcrop, his silhouette stark against the crimson sky, his voice commanding armies with single word. This was the age of Nephilim, a time when their reign reshaped the earth, leaving a legacy of might and menace. Imagine a settlement nestled along a river's bend, its mud brick homes glowing warmly in the evening light. The air carried the scent of roasting meat and the hum of daily life. Women grinding grain, children chasing each other through dusty paths, men returning from the hunt with stories of the wild. But all eyes turned when the Nephilim approached. Taller than any man, his frame seemed carved from the mountains themselves, his eyes holding a glint of divine fire. He might carry a spear forged by angelic hands, its blade gleaming with an unnatural sheen, or wear a cloak adorned with patterns no mortal weaver could replicate. The people gathered, drawn by his presence, their whispers a mix of admiration and unease. The Nephilim were not just warriors or leaders. They were symbols of a world where the divine and human intertwined. Their very existence a challenge to the natural order. The book of Genesis calls them heroes of old, men of renown, a phrase that hints at their dominance. They were not content to live quietly among men. Some became rulers, their strength and intellect setting them apart. Picture a Nephilim striding into a village square, his presence silencing the chatter of merchants and drawing the gaze of every soul. His voice, deep and resonant, could sway councils of elders, his decisions shaping the fate of entire tribes. Others were warriors, their exploits the stuff of legend. Imagine a battlefield where a single Nephilim turned the tide, his massive form cutting through enemies like a storm through a forest, his sword leaving trails of light in the dusk. The Book of Enoch, expanding on the biblical account, describes them as beings of immense power, their influence spreading like wildfire across the ancient world. They built fortresses of stone, their walls rising high above the plains, symbols of their unyielding authority. Yet, their reign was not one of peace. The knowledge their angelic fathers had shared, metallurgy, weaponry, and forbidden arts, fueled their ambition. Villages that once thrived on cooperation became arenas of conflict. Picture a once quiet settlement now alive with the clang of swords and the cries of the fallen, as tribes armed with angelic technology vied for supremacy. The Nephilim, with their divine heritage, often stood at the forefront, leading armies or ruling as god-kings. Their cities, built with knowledge beyond human understanding, gleamed with unnatural splendor. Towers of polished stone, streets lined with statues that seemed to watch passers-by. But these advancements came at a cost. The earth, once a garden of harmony, grew scarred with the marks of war. Fields were trampled, rivers ran red, and the air carried the acrid scent of smoke from burning villages. The Nephilim's influence was not merely physical. Their presence stirred something deeper in the human heart: pride, envy, and a hunger for power. Imagine a young man, inspired by tales of their might, dreaming of becoming like them, only to turn his hand against his kin in pursuit of glory. The Book of Enoch paints a grim picture, describing a world where the earth was filled with violence because of Nephilim and the knowledge they inherited. Their towering figures became symbols of excess, their deeds a cautionary tale whispered by elders to warn the young. Some saw them as heroes, their strength a gift to humanity. Others saw them as tyrants, their divine blood a curse that corrupted all it touched. Theologians debate their role. Were they agents of divine judgment, sent to test humanity's righteousness, or were they the spark that ignited its fall? Picture a Nephilim king seated on a throne of carved granite, his eyes scanning a hall filled with trembling subjects. His crown, forged with metals unknown to mortal smiths, gleamed under torchlight, a reminder of his otherworldly lineage. His decrees could bring prosperity or ruin, his whims shaping the lives of thousands. Yet, even as they ruled, the Nephilim were not immune to the flaws of their human side. Imagine one of these giants, alone in the quiet of night, gazing at the stars and wrestling with his dual nature. Was he a god among men, or a man cursed with godlike power? The stories told them were filled with contradictions, tales of valor and battle, but also of cruelty, of wisdom that rivaled the heavens, but also of arrogance that defied them. Their cities became centers of culture and conflict, places where the forbidden knowledge of the Watchers flourished. Imagine a marketplace where traders barter for weapons sharper than any before, or scrolls inscribed with star charts that promise to unlock the future. These advancements, while dazzling, sowed discord. Tribes that once shared resources now hoarded them, their leaders emulating the Nephilim's grandeur. The earth groaned under the weight of this change, its harmony unraveling as ambition replaced unity. The Mediterranean winds, once carrying the scent of olive groves and wildflowers, now bore the tang of iron and ash. The Nephilim, whether through intent or consequence, became catalysts for a world slipping into chaos. The reign of the giants was a time of awe and terror, a chapter where humanity glimpsed the divine and paid a heavy price. Their fortresses rose like monuments to their power, but also to their hubris. Picture a child standing at the base of such a structure, his small form dwarfed by walls that seemed to touch the sky, wondering if these giants were saviors or destroyers. The answer, like so much of their story, lay in the shadows of a world teetering on the edge of divine judgment. The skies darkened, heavy with clouds that rolled like waves across an angry sea. The world, once a canvas of vibrant life, now bore the scars of unchecked ambition and violence. The Nephilim's reign had transformed the earth into a place of turmoil, where the cries of the oppressed mingled with the clash of weapons and the roar of conquest. Villages that flourished in peace lay in ruins, their fields trampled by armies led by these giant rulers. The air, thick with the smoke of burning homes, carried a sense of foreboding. Humanity's heart had turned toward evil, every thought and action tainted by the influence of forbidden knowledge and divine rebellion. It was in this chaos that God looked down, his spirit grieved by the corruption that had seeped into every corner of creation. The time had come for judgment, a cleansing that would wash away the stain of sin, the great flood. Picture the ancient world in its final days before the deluge. Rivers swelled with unseasonal rains, their waters churning restlessly against the banks. Animals grew uneasy, their instincts sensing the shift in the divine order. Men and women went about their routines, oblivious or defiant, their lives entangled in the web of wickedness spun by the Nephilim. The giants themselves, towering figures of power, continued their dominance, perhaps sensing no threat from the heavens they had once called home. But the book of Genesis records God's sorrow. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. These words evoke a profound sadness, a creator mourning the perversion of his good work. The Nephilim, with their hybrid nature, stood at the center of this decay, their existence a symbol of the boundaries crossed and the order shattered. The decision for the flood was not made in haste. Imagine the heavens stirring, angels whispering in solemn tones as God declares his intent. I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. The earth had become a place of unrelenting violence, the Nephilim's influence accelerating humanity's fall. Theological debates swirl around the cause. Was a flood primarily due to Nephilim's corruption or the general sinfulness of mankind? Genesis links the two, noting that the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. The giants, with their strength and knowledge, had amplified human flaws, turning tools of progress into instruments of destruction. Villages raided, innocents slain, the land groaning under the weight of bloodshed, all traced back to the Watchers' descent and their offspring's reign. Yet, amid the darkness, a flicker of hope emerged. Noah, a man described as righteous and blameless among his generation, walked with God. Picture him in his modest home, surrounded by the rugged beauty of hills dotted with olive trees. The wind carried the scent of earth and herbs as he tended his fields, his heart attuned to the divine voice that others ignored. God spoke to Noah, revealing the impending judgment, and commanded him to build an ark, a massive vessel of gopher wood. sealed with pitch, designed to preserve life through the cataclysm. The dimensions were vast, 300 cubits long, 50 wide, 30 high, a floating sanctuary against the storm. Noah, perhaps in his later years, labored under the sun, his hands calloused from sawing timber and hammering nails. Neighbors mocked him, their laughter echoing as they pointed to the structure rising on dry land. A flood? They scoffed, glancing at clear skies. But Noah persisted, his faith a quiet anchor in the rising tide of doubt. The ark became a symbol of salvation, its compartments filled with provisions and pairs of every living creature. Imagine procession, animals drawn by divine instinct, from the majestic lions with manes like golden fire to the smallest birds fluttering in pairs. The air hummed with their calls, a symphony of life boarding the vessel. Noah's family, his wife, sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, joined him, their faces etched with a mix of awe and trepidation. As the door sealed shut by God's own hand, the world outside continued its descent into oblivion. The Nephilim, for all their might, could not escape the divine decree. Their towering forms, once unassailable, would soon be swallowed by the waters. Then the rains began. The heavens opened, not with gentle showers, but with torrents that fell like arrows from the sky. Underground springs burst forth, flooding the valleys and sweeping away all in their path. Picture the chaos. Rivers overflowing, swallowing homes and fields. People scrambling to higher ground, their cries drowned by the roar of the deluge. The Nephilim, perhaps climbing mountains in vain, their strength no match for the relentless waves. The earth transformed into a vast ocean, the ark bobbing like a leaf on its surface. For 40 days and nights, the waters rose, covering even the highest peaks, erasing corruption that had plagued creation. The flood was not mere destruction. It was a rebirth, a purging of the old to make way for the new. Theological reflections on this event are profound. Some see the flood as a direct response to the Nephilim's existence, their angelic human hybrid nature an abomination that upset the cosmic balance. The Book of Enoch supports this, detailing how the Watcher's actions led to God's command for the archangels to bind the fallen ones and destroy their offspring. Others view it as judgment on humanity's collective sin, with the Nephilim as exemplars of that wickedness. Regardless, the narrative underscores themes of justice and mercy, justice and the cleansing, mercy and Noah's preservation. As the waters receded after 150 days, the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat, a new beginning dawning. Noah stepped out into a world washed clean, the air fresh with the promise of renewal, offering sacrifices that pleased God. The great flood marked the end of the Nephilim's era. Their reign dissolved in the depths. Yet, questions linger. Did any survive, or were echoes of their kind to appear in later tales? The story invites contemplation, a reminder of the consequences when divine boundaries are breached. As the waters receded, revealing a world scrubbed clean by the flood, the earth breathed anew. Mountains emerged from the depths, their peaks glistening under a tentative sun, while valleys filled with a murmur of reborn rivers. The air carried the fresh scent of wet soil and sprouting greenery, a promise of renewal after devastation. Noah and his family stepped from the ark onto this transformed landscape, their eyes wide with wonder at the silence that had replaced the chaos of old. The Nephilim, those towering figures of legend, were presumed lost to the deluge, their mighty forms swallowed by the waves. Yet, whispers persisted, echoes in the biblical text that suggest the giant story might not have ended there. Were there survivors, clinging to life in hidden refuges? Or were these later mentions mere myths, symbolic remnants of corrupted age? The mystery lingers, inviting us to explore the shadows of Scripture where giants reappear. The book of Genesis seems clear. The flood was total, wiping out all life except that preserved on the ark. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. It declares, painting a picture of utter annihilation. Imagine the vast ocean covering the earth, no hill or tree breaking the surface. The Nephilim's fortresses crumbling under the relentless assault of water. Their divine heritage offered no salvation. The judgment was impartial. But as the narrative progresses into later books, puzzling references emerge. In Numbers, scouts sent by Moses to explore Canaan return with tales of giants. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from Nephilim. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we look the same to them. The Anakim, described as enormous and fearsome, evoke images of towering warriors whose presence struck terror into the hearts of the Israelites. Were these the same Nephilim, somehow enduring the flood? Picture the scene in Canaan, a land of rolling hills and fertile plains, dotted with ancient cities fortified by stone walls. The spies, creeping through vineyards heavy with grapes, catch sight of these colossal beings. One Anakite stands guard, his height rivaling the cedars, his armor gleaming in the sunlight. The report back to Moses is laced with fear. These are no ordinary men, but echoes of the pre-flood giants. Deuteronomy reinforces this, naming the Anakim as descendants of the Rephaim, another group linked to giant stature. Og, king of Bashan, is said to have a bed 9 cubits long, over 13 feet, a detail that conjures visions of a ruler whose frame demanded such proportions. His defeat by the Israelites becomes a tale of triumph over lingering remnants of ancient evil. But how could they survive? Some scholars suggest the flood was local, not global, confined to the Mesopotamian region, allowing distant populations, including giants, to persist. Others propose that Noah's family carried the Nephilim gene, perhaps through intermarriage, leading to recessive traits resurfacing generations later. The debate stirs suspense, like a shadow moving just beyond the firelight. Imagine sitting around a campfire in the wilderness, the night air cool and stars twinkling overhead, as elders recount stories of these post-flood giants. Goliath, the Philistine champion felled by David, stands as the most famous example. His height, 6 cubits in a span, nearly 10 feet, mirrors the biblical giants, his spear like a weaver's beam evoking superhuman strength. Was he a descendant, a mythologized warrior, or a symbol of opposition to God's people? The text in 1 Samuel describes him defying Israel, his voice booming across the valley, challenging any to face him. David's sling and stone bring him down, a victory that echoes the flood's theme, divine favor over brute power. Yet, other giants appear, Lami, Ishbi-Benob, and Sippai, brothers or kin to Goliath, suggesting a lineage of extraordinary beings. Theological interpretations add layers to the enigma. Some view these references as symbolic, representing any formidable enemy or the persistence of sin in a post-flood world. The Nephilim become metaphors for pride and rebellion. Their survival, a reminder that evil's roots run deep. Picture a scribe penning these accounts, using giant imagery to convey the overwhelming challenges faced by the faithful. In Jewish tradition, texts like the Targums expand on this, linking the Anakim to pre-flood survivors who perhaps found refuge on high mountains or in distant lands. The Book of Jubilees suggests that a portion of the giant spirits became demons, wandering the earth as malevolent forces, a chilling thought that blends physical survival with spiritual legacy. Archaeological whispers fuel the mystery further. Ancient sites in the Levant reveal massive stone structures, like the megaliths of Bashan, attributed in folklore to giant builders. Imagine explorers uncovering these ruins, their hands tracing carvings that hint at a forgotten race of immense strength. While science attributes them to human ingenuity, the biblical narrative invites wonder. Could these be echoes of the Nephilim? The suspense builds as we consider global flood myths, from Mesopotamia's Epic of Gilgamesh to Native American tales, all speaking of cataclysms and survivors. Did the giant story spread, morphing into legends of titans and cyclopes? Yet, not all echoes are literal. Some scholars argue these later giants were simply tall tribes, exaggerated in oral tradition to heighten drama. The Anakim, Rephaim, and Eman become ethnic groups known for stature. Their Nephilim label a poetic flourish. Picture a battle where Israelite warriors face foes of impressive build, their accounts growing in the retelling until they become mythical behemoths. This view maintains the flood totality, while explaining the textual anomalies. The unresolved questions keep the narrative alive, a bedtime tale that teases the mind, survival or myth. As we ponder, the giant shadows fade but never fully vanish, lingering in the corners of history and faith. The echoes of the giants challenge us to grapple with Scripture's ambiguities, their possible persistence a thread weaving through the biblical tapestry. As the fire crackles softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls of your imagination, Let's journey beyond the pages of the Bible into the vast tapestry of ancient mythologies. The Nephilim, those enigmatic giants born of divine unions, do not stand alone in the annals of history. Their story echoes across cultures, resonating in tales from distant lands where gods and mortals intertwined, birthing beings of extraordinary power. Picture a world where storytellers gathered under starlit skies, their voices weaving narratives that blurred the lines between heaven and earth. From the sun-baked plains of Mesopotamia to the misty shores of Greece, similar figures emerge, hybrid challenging the natural order, their legacies a blend of awe and warning. These parallels invite us to wonder, were the Nephilim unique to biblical lore, or part of a universal human fascination with the divine touching the mortal? In the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh stands as a cornerstone of ancient literature. Imagine the bustling city of Uruk, its ziggurats rising like steps to the gods, the air thick with the scent of incense and river mud. Gilgamesh, king and hero, was two-thirds divine, born of the goddess Nin's son and a mortal father. His strength was unmatched. He could wrestle lions barehanded, his frame towering over his subjects. The epic describes him building massive walls, embarking on quests for immortality, and befriending Enkidu, a wild man created by the gods. But Gilgamesh's divine heritage brought turmoil. His arrogance led to divine intervention, mirroring the Nephilim's role in corrupting the earth. The gods, annoyed by his exploits, sent the bull of heaven to punish him, echoing the biblical judgment on hybrid beings. Was Gilgamesh a Nephilim-like figure, a symbol of humanity's ambition clashing with divine will? The parallels are striking. Both represent the dangers of semi-divine power, their stories cautioning against hubris. Venturing to Babylon, the Anunnaki loom large in Sumerian myths. These were deities who descended from the heavens, their names evoking power and mystery. Picture the starry vault above the Euphrates, where priests chanted hymns to these godlike beings. The Anunnaki, often depicted as giants, ruled over humanity, some taking mortal wives and fathering demigods. In the Atrahasis epic, they create humans to labor for them, but when mankind multiplies and becomes noisy, the gods decree a flood to cleanse the earth, much like the biblical deluge triggered by the Nephilim's corruption. Enki, a wise Anunnaki, warns a righteous man to build a boat, preserving life. The giants here are not villains but architects of civilization, teaching arts and laws. Yet their interference leads to chaos. Scholars note how these tales, inscribed on clay tablets unearthed from desert sands, predate Genesis, suggesting shared oral traditions or cultural exchanges that influence the Nephilim narrative. Across the Nile in Egypt, the concept of divine kingship weaves a similar thread. Pharaohs were seen as semi-divine, offspring of gods like Ra or Osiris uniting with human queens. Imagine the golden sands of Thebes, pyramids piercing the sky like eternal sentinels. The god kings, with their colossal statues and temples, embodied hybrid power. Stories of Osiris, dismembered and resurrected, or Horus, avenging his father, highlight beings bridging the mortal and immortal. The Book of the Dead speaks of giants and monstrous hybrids in the underworld, guardians of forbidden knowledge. While not exact matches, these pharaohs' claims to divinity parallel the sons of God taking human wives, their reigns marked by both glory and the perils of overreach. Egyptian lore warns of the chaos when divine blood mixes with human, much like the violence attributed to the Nephilim. Turning to the misty realms of Norse mythology, the frost giants, or Jotun, stride through frozen landscapes. Picture the world tree Yggdrasil, its branches cradling realms where gods like Odin clashed with these colossal beings. The Jotun were not always enemies. Some intermarried with the Aesir gods, birthing powerful offspring like Loki, the trickster whose actions led to Ragnarok, the apocalyptic end. Loki's children, Fenrir the wolf, Jormungandr the serpent, were hybrids of immense destructive power, echoing the Nephilim's role in pre-flood wickedness. The Eddas describe giants teaching forbidden crafts, their unions blurring lines between order and chaos. The flood motif appears too, with the world reborn from cataclysm. These tales, passed down by scald-around roaring fires, reflect a universal theme: hybrid beings as catalysts for cosmic upheaval. In Greek mythology, the Titans and Cyclopes dominate the pantheon's early days. Imagine Mount Olympus shrouded in clouds, where Zeus overthrew his father Cronus, a titan of immense stature. The Titans, children of Uranus, Sky, and Gaia, Earth, were giants who ruled the Golden Age but fell to rebellion. Their offspring, like Prometheus, stole fire, divine knowledge for humanity, punished eternally for crossing boundaries. The Cyclopes, one-eyed giants forging thunderbolts, aided the gods but symbolized brute force. Hesiod's Theogony details their wars, parallels to the Watchers' descent and the violence that followed. Hercules battled giants like Antaeus, whose strength came from earth contact, much like the Nephilim's earthly ties. Greek floods, like Deucalions, cleanse a corrupt world, survivors repopulating the earth. These myths, etched in pottery and epic poems, underscore the temptation and peril of divine-human mingling. Further east, in Hindu epics like the Mahabharata, demigods and giants abound. Picture the battlefields of Kurukshetra, where warriors like Bhima, son of the wind god Vayu, wielded superhuman strength. The Rakshasas, demonic giants, opposed the gods, their leaders like Ravana kidnapping divine consorts. These beings, born of forbidden unions, spread chaos until divine avatars intervened. The flood story of Manu, warned by a fish incarnation of Vishnu, mirrors Noah's tale. Vedic texts speak of Asuras, anti-gods of giant proportions, clashing with Devas in cosmic battles. The theme persists, hybrid challenging order, their knowledge both boon and curse. Native American lore, from the Hopi to the Inuit, whispers of giants too. Imagine canyon walls echoing with stories of the Anasazis, ancient ones, or Inuit tales of Tornit, huge beings roaming the ice. These figures, often survivors of great floods, teach or terrorize, their legacies in petroglyphs and oral histories. These global echoes suggest a Nephilim tap into archetypes deep in human psyche. Fears of the unknown, allure of power, consequences of transgression. As we reflect on these myths, the giants' footsteps resonate across time, connecting distant cultures in a shared narrative of wonder and caution. As the evening deepens and the world outside quiets, let's turn our gaze inward to the deeper meanings woven into Nephilim's tale. These giants, striding to the ancient pages of Scripture, are more than historical figures or mythical beings. They embody profound symbols that speak to the human condition. Picture them not just as towering shadows against a pre-flood sky, but as mirrors reflecting our own struggles with pride, boundaries, and the lure of forbidden paths. Their story, rich with layers of interpretation, serves as a cautionary narrative, warning of the dangers when the divine and human realms collide unchecked. In the soft glow of reflection, the Nephilim become archetypes, symbols of disobedience, the perils of knowledge, and the fragility of creation's order. At the heart of their symbolism lies the theme of rebellion against divine authority. The sons of God, whether angels or exalted men, cross the sacred line by uniting with the daughters of men. Imagine the heavens as a vast, ordered realm, its harmony disrupted by this descent, much like a stone rippling a still pond. The Nephilim, their offspring, represent the fruit of that defiance. Powerful yet flawed, their existence a testament to the consequences of overstepping God's design. In Jewish and Christian theology, this mirrors the fall of Lucifer, another act of pride leading to chaos. The giants symbolize hubris, the belief that one can grasp what is reserved for the divine. Picture Nephilim reaching toward the stars, his hand outstretched in ambition, only to pull down storms upon the earth. This imagery warns believers. Pride goes before destruction, a lesson echoed in Proverbs and throughout Scripture. The Nephilim also embody the dangers of forbidden knowledge. The Watchers, in sharing secrets of metallurgy, astrology, and enchantments, unleashed forces humanity was not ready to wield. Envision a world where tools meant for progress become weapons of war, cosmetics fueling vanity, and celestial wisdom twisting into sorcery. This knowledge, like the fruit in Eden, promised elevation but delivered corruption. Symbolically, the giants stand for the double-edged sword of enlightenment, innovation shadowed by moral decay. In a bedtime reflection, this invites us to ponder our own pursuits. In an age of rapid discovery, do we chase wisdom without wisdom's guardrails? The Nephilim's legacy cautions that not all that glitters is gold. Some insights blind rather than illuminate. Their immense stature symbolizes overwhelming influence and the spread of violence. Genesis notes the earth filled with wickedness in their time, the giants' presence accelerating humanity's slide into chaos. Picture them as colossi dominating landscapes, their footsteps crushing the weak, their shadows eclipsing light. This represents how sin, once introduced, grows unchecked, overtaking societies like weeds in a garden. Theologically, they prefigure later biblical themes. The towering walls of Jericho, the giant Goliath defying God's people. Defeating such symbols requires faith, as with David's stone or Joshua's trumpet. Reminders that spiritual strength triumphs over physical might. In mystical traditions like Kabbalah, the Nephilim symbolize unbalanced forces in creation, their fall a disruption of cosmic harmony that demands restoration. The crossing of boundaries is another key symbol. The divine-human union blurred lines meant to remain distinct, leading to hybrids that fit neither world. Imagine a Nephilim torn between celestial heritage and earthly ties, his life a perpetual conflict. This reflects broader themes of identity and belonging. In a fractured world, we too navigate blurred lines between sacred and secular, self and other. The flood, as judgment, symbolizes a need to redraw those boundaries, cleansing to restore order. Post-flood echoes like the Anakim suggest sin's persistence, a symbolic reminder that vigilance is eternal. In literature and art, from Milton's Paradise Lost to modern interpretations, the Nephilim embody this tension, their forms inspiring both awe and dread. They also symbolize the temptation of power beyond limits. Born of desire, their strength became tyranny, ruling with iron fists over lesser men. Picture a Nephilim throne, opulent yet stained with blood, a metaphor for empires built on exploitation. This warns against the seduction of dominance, a theme resonant in today's world of inequality and ambition. Biblically, it ties to warnings against idolatry, where humans elevate themselves to godlike status. The giant's downfall illustrates that such power is illusory, crumbling under divine scrutiny. In esoteric traditions, the Nephilim symbolize hidden potentials and the quest for ascension. Some view them as bearers of lost wisdom, their knowledge a path to enlightenment if wielded rightly. Imagine ancient grimoires depicting them as teachers, their forbidden arts keys to unlocking human divinity. Yet, this symbolism carries risk, often linked to occult warnings of spiritual peril. The Book of Enoch portrays their spirits as demons post-flood, symbols of unrestful souls haunting the earth. Culturally, they represent the clash between progress and morality. Their advancements, forged weapons, mapped stars, propelled civilization but at the cost of virtue. This duality symbolizes modernity's dilemmas, technology's gift versus ethical erosion. In a reflective tone, the Nephilim urge balance, reminding us that true greatness lies in humility before God. The symbolism extends to redemption's possibility. Though judged, their story precedes Noah's covenant, a rainbow promise of mercy. Symbolically, even from rebellion's ashes, hope arises, a lesson that no fall is final if met with repentance. As we contemplate these layers, the Nephilim transcend mere giants, becoming timeless emblems of human frailty and divine sovereignty. Their tale, whispered through ages, invites introspection on our own boundaries and desires. As the stars twinkle in the velvet sky, casting their gentle light over a world that has long forgotten the footsteps of giants, the Nephilim story lingers like a whisper carried on the wind. These beings, born of forbidden unions between heaven and earth, have faded into the shadows of ancient history, their towering forms swallowed by the flood's relentless waves. Yet, their legacy endures, woven into the fabric of human thought, faith, and imagination. From the sacred scrolls of the Book of Enoch to the flickering screens of modern cinema, the Nephilim continue to captivate, their tale a haunting reminder of power, rebellion, and the delicate balance of creation. Let's wander through the ages, tracing how these giants have shaped mystical traditions, inspired art, and fueled modern fascination, leaving an indelible mark on the human spirit. The Nephilim story finds its deepest roots in texts like the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish work revered by early Christians and preserved in Ethiopian scriptures. Picture a dimly lit synagogue, where scribes pore over parchment, their quills scratching tales of the watchers and their offspring. Enoch describes the Nephilim as both physical giants and bearers of forbidden knowledge, their fathers teaching secrets that reshaped humanity. This text, though not canonical in most editions, influenced Jewish mysticism and early Christian thought. Imagine desert ascetics, their faces weathered by sun and prayer, reciting Enoch's account of angels bound for their sins, their children doomed to roam as restless spirits. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, fragments of Enoch and related works hint at the Nephilim as symbols of cosmic imbalance, their story a cautionary tale for those seeking wisdom beyond divine limits. These writings cast the giants as both tragic and perilous, their legacy a bridge between the biblical and the esoteric. In Jewish mysticism, particularly the Kabbalah, the Nephilim take on a symbolic depth. Picture a candlelit study, where a rabbi unravels the Zohar's secrets, describing the Nephilim as manifestations of unbalanced Sphirot, divine emanations gone awry. Their hybrid nature represents a disruption in the cosmic order, a warning against mixing spiritual realms without divine sanction. This esoteric legacy extends to later traditions, where the giants become archetypes of hidden knowledge. Medieval alchemists and mystics, huddled over ancient texts, saw the Nephilim as keepers of primordial wisdom, their forbidden arts a key to unlocking human potential. Yet, these same traditions caution against such pursuits, linking the giants to demonic forces. The Book of Enoch suggests their spirits became evil entities, haunting the earth, a concept that influenced Christian demonology, where Nephilim were blamed for spiritual corruption. This mystical thread weaves into the fabric of secret societies and occult lore. Imagine a cloaked figure in a Renaissance library, poring over grimoires that whisper Nephilim bloodlines surviving the flood, hidden among humanity's elite. By the Middle Ages, legends of giant blood fueled speculation about royal dynasties or hidden cabals, a notion that persists in modern conspiracy theories. Some claim the Nephilim's descendants walk among us, their divine heritage preserved in secret societies or powerful families. While such ideas lack historical grounding, they reflect the giants' enduring allure as symbols of mystery and power. The Rosicrucians and Freemasons, with their esoteric rituals, drew on these themes, seeing the Nephilim as cautionary figures against the misuse of knowledge. This occult legacy, though speculative, keeps the giants alive in the shadowy corners of human imagination. In modern culture, the Nephilim stride boldly across literature, film, and games, their forms reimagined for new audiences. Picture a darkened theater, where the Lord of the Rings unfolds, its towering trolls and ancient ents evoking the Nephilim's grandeur. In Clash of the Titans, the Greek-inspired Titans battle gods, their colossal forms echoing Genesis's giants. The Hobbit introduces stone giants hurling boulders, a nod to ancient myths of earth-shaking beings. These stories, while fictional, tap into the Nephilim's archetype, beings of immense power, often tragic, caught between worlds. In video games like God of War or Shadow of the Colossus, players face towering foes that recall the biblical giants, their battles a metaphor for confronting overwhelming odds. The Nephilim's image as both hero and villain resonates, their duality capturing the human struggle with ambition and morality. Conspiracy theories have also seized their legacy, blending biblical lore with modern anxieties. Imagine late-night forums buzzing with claims of Nephilim DNA in global elites or extraterrestrial origins tied to ancient aliens. While far from Scripture's intent, these ideas reflect the giants' power to symbolize hidden truths and forbidden knowledge. Television shows like Ancient Aliens explore these connections, linking megalithic structures, Stonehenge, Baalbek, to supposed Nephilim builders. Though speculative, such theories show how the giant story adapts, morphing into narratives that question authority and seek meaning in a complex world. In literature, the Nephilim inspire both awe and reflection. John Milton's Paradise Lost cast fallen angels as precursors to such beings, their rebellion a prelude to humanity's fall. Modern novels, like Madeleine L'Engle's works or fantasy series, weave Nephilim-like figures into tales of cosmic battles. These stories use the giants to explore themes of identity, redemption, and the cost of power. In religious circles, sermons and books draw on the Nephilim to warn against spiritual pride or the lure of worldly gain. Their story a timeless lesson. The Nephilim's lasting legacy lies in their ability to transcend time, their tale a mirror for humanity's hopes and fears. They symbolize the temptation to reach beyond our limits, the peril of unchecked power, and the possibility of redemption through divine grace. As we close this journey, their shadows linger, urging us to reflect on our own choices and boundaries. If the Nephilim story has moved you or made you think, please share it. It could be just what someone else needs to hear. The Nephilim's life shows us that change is possible for everyone. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next videos, where we'll explore the stories of other biblical characters and the valuable lessons they teach us. Just as God transformed the Nephilim's world, He also has a plan for you. See you in the next video.